Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. So the government could have just gracefully accepted Jin's offer from BTS to cancel his postponement early and then just go through with the whole mandatory military service process. But no. This week we had another announcement from the Ministry of Defense that shows that they just want to take some more out of BTS. So I wanted to go over what the Defense Ministry announced, whether it really looks like a full acceptance or like what do their words mean, because it sounds a little shady. And yes, the mask sale continues for the Eco Face, Platinum, and Original. You guys have been really into the rose gold color. And like I said, I'm trying to get my hands on every last quantity that there is from the manufacturer. And once they're gone from 2022, they're gone. They may go into production again for the Platinum, Rose Gold next year, but that's still up in the air. Trying to negotiate with them on that. And the silver is still available, but another alternative that a lot of you guys have liked as well is the fabulous gold color, and it is the original edition. I'll show you the difference between the original and the platinum, and also this is $100 cheaper, so that may be an added bonus to consider the beautiful gold color as well. All of that and more, so stay tuned. Okay, so this is what a relationship with a psychopath looks like, because they promise you one thing, it's never really certain in writing, but they make it sound so certain, and then they walk back and change the goalposts as if they didn't change anything at all. So the Minister of Defense himself at that plenary meeting in front of lawmakers at the National Assembly a couple months ago said that, okay, BTS most likely will have them open to go practice. If they have a world tour, they can go on their world tour, and then they can also have some time to practice together as a group. That in it of itself is also problematic, because how are you supposed to juggle both? But just a few days ago, a spokesperson from the Defense Ministry seemed to be preparing the public on a walkback of that promise. He said that our position is that we will provide an opportunity if they wish to participate when there is a national level event for the public good or an event designed in light of the national interest. That doesn't sound like a BTS world tour at all. Suddenly, oh, it's not going to be your BTS events, it's going to be our events that we will provide. And then the critical wording here that you have to look at is if they wish to participate. Now that is their con. You have to really believe that when they say if they wish to participate, that basically means they have to act as if they wish to participate, but they gotta do it. And this is why a lot of people are saying, like, this is not a normal situation, this is not a fair situation, because these are not going to be ordinary people going into the military. Do other people who have to do their mandatory military service have to go on events and perform and do things for the sake of the politicians? When they say national interest, in almost any country, when it looks like a politician or a political class or a group of bureaucrats who have something to gain from it don't want to reveal that it's actually gonna be for personal gain at the taxpayer's expense, they'll always put on the gravy sauce of it's for national interest. This is for the country. And again, this, even to Korean people, if you looked at a lot of the comments from actual Korean people, a lot of them, most of them were saying like, oh, they get it right away. They're like, oh, you're going to use them more? You're gonna just say like, oh, you're gonna send them out on your own personal pet projects and not let them just be a normal conscript. So like I said, this is what it's like when you live with either a psychopath or under a whole dictatorship. Now, the reason why I bring that up is that for many of these men in this generation who are making these decisions, they really did grow up under dictatorship. Korea itself revised its constitution in 1987 for the last time. In 1948, the first constitution was established. Then in 1987, they revised the constitution to really set up a true democracy, but it's kind of like a first draft. And it was still set up under the last year of a dictator. And then the next president was a crony of the dictator, so he was like a transition period until 1992. And so Korean democracy has been built on a foundation from 1987 where it hasn't been updated at all, and there have been multiple calls to revise the constitution because when they set it up, it wasn't really quite baked in yet in terms of checks and balances. It gave the president way too much power so he can still act like a dictator by de facto. And then the National Assembly itself really has no checks and balances, so they can also act more dictatorial. And so people wanted to be able to have a bit of a balance. We'll go into a little bit more, but in general, these guys are from an era where their model of what is fair and correct and also how to govern people was really shaped under dictatorship. And under that kind of environment, well, first of all, like, I mean, would you still use your computer from 1987? Would you still wear your clothes from 1987? Would you eat food that was made in 1987 if it still exists? Yeah, we're 35 years from having a revision to the Constitution, and the Constitution is essentially the excuse that the Ministry of Defense Military Manpower Association is saying like, oh, well, in the Constitution, it says this, vague term, and then the Ministry of Culture is the one that made it more specific, and then also the Ministry of Defense has their own kind of clauses. And so what would have happened under a pro-exemption environment is that the Ministry of Culture would say, look, we want to include pop artists underneath the cultural designations that we deem suitable for military exemption. Then that would be sent over to lawmakers. The lawmakers would pass a revision to the law, and then the Ministry of Defense would have to carry it out. But the way that it kind of really works is that if you don't have the Ministry of Defense on board first, then it's really hard for the culture minister to move, and it's really hard for the lawmakers to move. So even though the Ministry of Defense is like the last one on the line and should be the one taking orders, they're actually the one giving orders, and they do not want to have military exemption for pop stars, as we have seen from the numerous hearings and panels where they spoke to assemblymen. And obviously looks like the tricks that they were holding up their sleeves, they did it. And so the reason why also when people are saying like, this is so like unfair, how can this be possible? Well, for them, for this class of people in this generation, what's fair is that now that they have worked so hard to gain these positions of authority that they can abuse rather than serve, they're thinking like, it's my right now to exploit the youth. Why? Because their youth was taken away by dictators and an authoritarian environment that was worse than what we have now, but the vestiges are still here. Just because we got rid of the dictator officially in 1987, that doesn't mean that this ideology disappears right away as well. It actually propagates like a virus throughout the generations and still stays stuck in there. So for these guys, when they're saying fairness, transparency, they're really thinking, well, if I went through it, then you have to go through it. If my youth was stolen from me, then it's now my right to steal your youth. And it's an old way of thinking, but it's a very prevalent way of seeing the world in terms of like, okay, well, it was so unfair, so unjust under dictatorship. So the way to fix it in their mind is that they can do the same abuse onto the next round to make it even in their feeling or their ego or like their mindset. You know, instead of getting, you know, mental health care, this is their mental health care. And so they feel like it would be a balance if young people hurt as much as they did, and they can get something that the people who took advantage of them had gotten out of when they were young themselves. So this system right now is trickling down, you know, like reason why, like I'm saying is that like the Constitution is affecting the way that you can have BTS in your life or not. And yes, this is the Korean people's fault for not being able to reform their constitution because of a lot of political bickering. Now, the last major push was in 2018 under President Moon, and he appointed a justice minister who was going to reform the constitution, and it seemed like it was going well, and he seemed like pretty squeaky clean, but the political rivals, they just want to, you know, crabs in a bucket. I don't even think that they're that against constitutional revision, because it would actually give the National Assembly a little bit more power, but you cannot have your opponent succeed in the other party. So they went and tried to drag this guy down. They couldn't find anything, but what they did find was that his wife had basically used their position of privilege to get her daughter into a prestigious medical school when she was underqualified. And so that, you know, I mean, we have a lot of political scandals. We have people doing a lot of bad things. But remember how I told you that there are a lot of things that Korean people, you know, in terms of criminality, will let slide. But this whole thing about like unfairly getting into a very prestigious school, that's something that they knew, the political opponents knew that the Korean public would not let slide, because that really triggers that feeling of jealousy in people, and then also like injustice. But you know, when you're outside of Korea, you're like, wait a minute, okay, yes, that's wrong, and that's bad that she got into school under pretenses and she wasn't qualified, but does that compare to like stealing billions of dollars from people's bank accounts, like, you know, from like our version of the savings and loan crisis? Or we have the leader of one political party under allegations that he's like connected to the mafia and also stole billions of dollars, and then also even maybe have orchestrated the going to a different dimension of several key whistleblowers. But well, that might just be business under a dictator. So that's the thing that people are thinking, like, okay, if you're under a dictatorship, you can't do anything about that. But that person next door, their kid got into that school without like the proper credentials, like that is the thing that really then sparks people to action, and you know, in terms of like even like how they vote. And that's something that cannot be fixed by, oh, just putting in somebody who has more morals, or and that's how people think under like that kind of environment, that where you have no power over the system. You're just thinking like, oh, we just need to put better people in there. Honey, the roster is full of psychopaths. You're not going to get a better person. The only thing that will save you at this point is to reform a system that is higher than any individual, so that there are checks and balances, so that individuals are more individuals are empowered to do the right thing or to counter somebody who is abusing authority. And that is what is being shown on clear display right now, that this Ministry of Defense looks so greedy at the moment, that they are just going to be like, oh, well, now that we got you, that, you can't do anything about it, guess you're going to be stuck here, and guess you're going to be our little circus monkey and just going to be going out there and perform for things that will benefit our pet projects. And these pet projects, they'll say it's for national interest, but trust me, there are ways to turn all of that into power or money in terms of doling out favors or who has access to them. Overall, though, is there hope? I don't want to, again, bring up false hope, but I'm not really seeing a clear response. Notice how the response in terms of accepting Jin's, because, okay, first of all, Jin has not sent in the cancellation yet of his extension. He said that he's going to do it at the end of the month after he releases his cool new single. I guess it was written by Coldplay. It's called The Astronaut. They launched some teasers. It looks really cool. And Jin has been doing some, more stuff on social media and also on broadcasts. He's just giving the last of his personality, I think, before he has to go in. But he still hasn't officially rescinded his extension. And then also notice how that the Minister of Defense and the Military Manpower Association themselves have not come out with a clear okay, well, good job, come on in, we would love to have you. They sent an acting spokesperson from the Ministry of Defense to say oh, well, if there are events in the national interest, then they will be able to perform. That's how I understand it. So they're testing out how far they can get away with more shenanigans. And I think that means that, a lot of you guys have responded saying I'm tapping away, I'm sending my thoughts out to the politicians and the businesses. I still think that it's still worth a shot, because the only thing at this point that, basically the military has won, but they definitely don't know the effects of their decision, the consequences of their decision. But if the right person that they listen to is really convinced by how much damage this decision would make to their bottom line, mainly the business community, then I think there might be some more conversations. There is still a little bit of time. I wouldn't get my hopes up a lot, but if, like I said before, if you just want to let this go and just be okay, I need to go on my chaise lounge and have a tea, then that's fine. But if you are enraged, and especially if you're crying, not that crying is bad, but please, let's use that energy to, write off a letter, write out your thoughts. The thoughts that you guys have been putting on my comments have been so poignant and profound. Send them out to whoever you want. I put the list down there. You could either choose the business side or you could choose the political side. And pick your poison, because send them the poison, okay? Don't let it settle within you. Send it out to them to make sure that they actually know what the ramifications are about this decision that was not made by the public. It was really made by these officials who are essentially private individuals, because they ain't acting like public servants. And from the decision of that few, again, in a very dictatorial and authoritarian manner, they are deciding, and they are going to affect the economic livelihoods of over 50 million people in South Korea. And not only that, there's trade partners all around the world. There's once something hits in terms of an economic loss, it's not just the company, it's the families that depend on the company for their income. It's the subcontractors, it's the suppliers in other countries. It is a global catastrophe waiting to happen once these dominoes start to fall. And something so preventable, again, this is just giving me like, Seoul fairy chills. Something so preventable through smart planning, they just didn't do. Because they're like, oh, well, like what's in it for me? Yeah, what's in it for you? You know what? After a certain point, people are not going to be patient. All I'm saying is just watch your back. Watch your back. And your kids' back, because the sad thing about in Korea, like how in America, like, no matter how bad your parents are, they always say like, oh, well, the kids aren't innocent, leave them out of it. Oh, they go after the kids in Korea. Oh, yeah. Like the person I told you about who tried to reform the Constitution, they couldn't find anything on him, his wife, so they went after the kid. I mean, the kid, did stuff wrong. And, the whole Chesun-Chil thing, how President Park got impeached, it was literally, yes, the fault of the best friend, but what really set it off was the daughter. And so they go after kids here in Korea, believe you me, there's no shame. And so when people do that, they're usually like the ones that are the bad people, right? Because like, why would you go after somebody's kids? That's horrible. But they think, I don't know why they're so confident. They're so confident that like, oh, I can go after other people's kids, but nobody's going to come after my kid. One of these days. Okay, guys, so I want to show you the difference between the original and the platinum. Oh wait, so this is the platinum and this is the original. I think in the lighting sometimes like this is rose gold and gold, so I guess they're pretty much the same similar color, but the rose gold is the platinum edition and it has more LED lights, almost double the amount, 216 lights. So if you look here, each little square dot is an LED light, but it has 2 wavelengths. So there's 108 dots and each dot has 2 LED wavelengths. So that's why they say there's 216 lights. And the older edition, which is the original edition, which actually is the bestseller for the manufacturer. Here on Seoulite TV, you guys love the platinum, but this actually is the bestseller, the gold color in the original edition, probably because it is cheaper. It is $100 cheaper than the platinum. If you see, there are also similar square dots, but there are 60 of them. Instead of 108 dots, which turn into 216 LED lights, this has 60 dots, which turn into 120 LED lights. You still get great coverage from this, and this is an upgraded edition of the original, so it does come with an eye guard, and it comes with the gel pads, the same as the platinum. The difference is the lights, and also it's just slightly heavier, but it's still it's almost the same. And that's also pretty. The gold is pretty nice. So if you are considering the mask because, better than Botox, better than retinol, go beneath your skin, then consider the gold as well. The red light therapy, you can, there's a lot of research of it online, but if you're wondering about the red lights in these products, basically the first red light goes 2.5 millimeters deep into your skin to revitalize collagen. Yeah, you know that microneedling thing, that ain't going down there. So that'll help revitalize collagen. And then the second light goes a little bit deeper to 3.5 millimeters beneath your skin to invigorate blood circulation. So it's a 630 nanometer red light for the 2.5 millimeter, and then 830 nanometer near infrared light for 3.5 inch deep. So you're getting like dual function, one for blood circulation, one for collagen regeneration. That's what makes, I think, this mask a lot more special than all the other stuff on the market that, you know, try to do LED red light therapy. And the company who made the LED red lights, they have been in the LED business for generations, and so they are masters at LED lighting technology. And so the coupon code is still active only for Seoulite TV viewers. Seoulite TV is the coupon code for $60 off all masks. So, you know, if you order 1 or 5, you always get $60 off each mask. All right, guys, so what do you think? I mean, I do believe that we are not only under this really unfair situation, but it's really stems from this whole culture of not viewing people equally or with respect. If you viewed your conscript with respect, you would treat them differently. And you know, now that there's cell phones allowed, because before there were no cell phones allowed, but now people are taking pictures of their food and the food looks like crap. And if you had you would respect your military force, that is essentially enslavement, not enlistment. And if you would respect them more, you would not have this type of situation. And if you would respect the safety of the defense situation right now, then you wouldn't put in a huge distraction like a pop star on the BTS level. It is worse to have somebody who is not right in the right position than to just not have them at all. Why do you want to create more chaos in the military? Y'all can't even fire off your rockets correctly. Fix your damn rockets first, and then maybe think about the pop stars. But until then, let the pop star go, bring more calm and strategic thinking to the military, and fix your damn rockets. All right, guys. Well, what do you think? Put your comments down below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.